Coach, what's up? Hope you find this video beneficial. If you have a team that has 3 players that can handle the basketball a little bit more, 2 players you just want to keep a little bit closer to the basket, I think this type of offense can help you. It's something that I've played and coached. We've called it 32. This is obviously opposite of a lot of 5-out, 4-out, although this will also get into some 4-out that I'll show you as well. But let's touch on our perimeter players right here first. And the first thing that I want to clarify is our top player has a lot of freedom. Our perimeter players on the wings and the side have a lot of freedom. They're not nailed into these 3 positions. Because there's only 3 players out on the perimeter, they have a lot of space that they can work with. A wing player essentially could play all the way in the corner, all the way up to the slot or the seam. Our player who's up top really has the ability to slide over between the seam and the wing, all the way over to the other side. They have a lot of room to work with. And then the same thing with our other player on the wing right there. So there's a lot of options here, and it's based on how much space is right here. Those initial drives, at least to get to 15 feet, are pretty easy to get to. Now, here's the most common actions. We'll cover our perimeter players, our 3 players on the perimeter first, and then we'll talk about how these players are posting, popping out, getting into some ball screens as well. One of our most common actions is simply pass, basket cut, fill, and then fill. All right, so if it's pass left, basket cut, fill right, we want to make sure if we do pass, we're cutting to the ball side. And so forget about these 2. We'll get to those in a minute. So that's a common option that we have with general pass to the wing. Another option, we can pass here, screen away, set that up, and we're moving the basketball right there. So pass, basket cut, pass, screen away. If we do pass, another option that we would use quite a bit is a flare screen. Looking for the skip pass over top is a great look, and then we're filling those positions as well. Another option that we have within this offense that's quite common is a dribble handoff. So that's something that we would use. Dribble to your side, you got your handoff, and we're looking here. Again, all of these options, because of the spacing, are really great for dribble drive and at least getting into that 15-foot area where defenders have to help into the gaps and then into your kickouts. Even if you're looking at it from this position here, if you were running flat with our bigs in the bottom, it should be pretty easy for a player here to be able to get at least to the elbow, see if they can draw a gap defender, and then get into our kick out. Boom, we can come through, fill. And so those are some simple options that we can use. We can pass, screen away. We can pass and get into our basket cut. We can pass, get into our dribble handoff. Now, if a player does get the basketball here, there's some options that they have. Obviously, we're looking to attack out of this. We can hold. We will talk a little bit more about the bigs, but we like to bring a big out, which turns into a 4-out offense here, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. So I'll talk a little bit about these perimeter players once we talk a little bit more about what our bigs are doing. Now, for our bigs, some of the common locations are high post. Let's say the basketball gets passed here. High post, low post, corner, weak side. If they're a shooter, you can bring them out a little bit. If not, we'll keep them in a short corner, all right? And then getting into ball screens, which could lead into pick and pops, pick and rolls, trying to isolate 2 players on the side. If you got 2 players that really work well together, this can be something where we bring a player out, we set that ball screen, we get into our roll, we're trying to drive middle. If the ball's coming to you, we're generally kind of pushing away, right? And we're really isolating right here on that side, looking for that 2-player game right there is pretty effective as well. So our bigs, if we have some players that like to post up, they're comfortable around the basket, maybe at the older levels, they're still not great shooters, great ball handlers, great decision makers on the perimeter, we can put them closer to the basket. If we get it into the high post, obviously we can look to drive it, but we can look for high-low actions right here. The ball goes into the low post. We want to give our player space, our teammate space. So if the ball did go into the low post, usually we're trying to get away. If there's some type of help, we're trying to find the open spot. With this type of offense, is not a lot of rules. There's not necessarily the continuity to it. It's more of a read and react style with a 3 out and 2 in. And so you're reading the game, you're reading the defense. Defender's low, player goes high. Defender's high, player goes low, right? And so with our bigs, some of their main strategies and playing spots are low post, high post. We'll integrate them here into flashes in the corner and short corner, getting into ball screens, and occasionally they can be an outlet. Let's say it's really great ball pressure. We're being denied here. We're being denied here. A lot of times we'll bring a player out. We'll get in here with a pass. They'll be able to either swing, get into a handoff. They'll be able to stand, and then a player can, boom, cut back off of it and get a handoff there. So it's more of a handoff than a dribble handoff, and simply be able to reverse the basketball as well. And that's one of the reasons why it's not a bad idea to have 3 out, is because there's so much wiggle room and ownership that a player has, right? They're not stuck playing at the top of the key. They're not stuck playing on the wings. They have all this space to work with on the perimeter because we still have some players inside, okay? So with that in mind, how do our players now start to work together? All right, we talked about some of the locations that our bigs are working out of. For example, if we brought the basketball to the wing and we had somebody posting, they'd hold that for maybe a second or two, they'd get out. And then from here, okay, boom, we're diving and we're looking here. We don't have anything. Okay, we're moving away a little bit. This type of offense is really good for players that have some shot fakes, some jab steps, that are good at playing post-entry basketball. And so those are some things we want to think about and work on as well. Now, this can also get into some 4-out type actions. And so if the basketball gets passed here, common action could be screen away with our perimeter players. We pull the 5 out, and then boom, we got a mismatch. We got 1 inside. We have 4 perimeter players on the outside. We can look to pass here. We can get it to the corner and look to pass down, and our big can go to work. There's nobody else in the paint, okay? So that's an option. Now, let's say we want to get some alternate actions in here. We can pass here, and then what are some of my ones options that they have right here? One can pass left, screen right, and bring the 2 over. And one could pass corner. They could basket cut through, and then we're filling those perimeter spots right there. That's just common action. Ball gets swung back out. Boom, we're leaving. We're filling in here. Ball starts to move. Usually when the ball goes from wing back to the top of the key, we hold this spot, right? We don't have them cut over. You could get into an overload if you like, but we'll just hold this position as the basketball gets back up right here, okay? This is really good if you're ever working on like 2-on-0 drive reads and teaching the important aspects of when someone drives, does my player need space or do they need help, right? And so if the basketball gets swung here and they see like they're able to beat their initial defender here, and so they start to drive this elbow, okay? So if they start to drive this elbow, if I'm here, do they need space? If they need space, I'm going to push away. If they need help, I'm probably going to wrap. And some of that is dependent on where's their defensive player. Is their defensive player sliding over here? Is their defensive player coming back into a gap right there? And that's going to help determine a little bit of where we would go from that standpoint right there. Now you're saying, okay, but we got somebody in the strong side post. Not necessarily, it depends on where they are, but if somebody's coming down, again, this big is reading. If their defender is stepping up, then we're looking for that pass over the top. If their defender stays put, they're stepping out, maybe even out to the 3-point line. If this is open and we've spaced out, obviously if they're coming up here, you got the option to go back to the weak side, right? So those are just basic basketball reads that you're making built on the defense. It's not so specific with, hey, in a dribble drive offense, you guys know if you're driving to a certain spot, right, that defender has to get underneath and go to the other side. That's good offense, but it's specific. That's a rule. There's not as many rules within this offense. We're letting the ball lead, letting the players make decisions, and then we're trying to play off of it, all right? Now, another thing that we like to do off this is get into ball screen actions. A couple different ways we can get into ball screen actions. We can bring this player up, come off this screen, and we're playing 2-on-0 on a single side. We're pushing away, we're pushing away, we're pushing away. Another thing that we can do off this is we can push down, get the basketball more here, and we're really trying to give a lot of space here for our offensive player to be able to work. So if they come and set a ball screen here, we can come off that ball screen. Let's say we're rolling, okay? And then if our defensive player here is starting to dig, we lift, we got that pass back across, kick, push opposite, get all the space we have to drive, you're reading. And this player, anytime we're generally supposed to fill a spot, I'm not in a rush to get there. I'm taking a look at what's my offensive player doing here, and do they need a second because they're going to turn the corner? If that's the case, I'm going to be very slow to work my way over here. If they look like they need some help, then I'm going to come into a sprint so they can get rid of the basketball and get it back to me, right? So if any of this starts to appeal to you, please let me know, because we can do some more detailed instruction with fast draw, with digital breakdowns, even with some of our Coach's Edge presentations. So we like to, with our bigs, we like to put them to a side, pass, basket cut through and fill. With our bigs, we like to set ball screens in this offense. That could be emptying out the corner and playing a two-man game. That could be putting a player here and getting into a lift. That's a great option, using that off of the ball screen as well. And then with keeping all those things in mind, if things start to get clogged up, we like to bring one of our high post players up towards the top of the key area. And so that could mean as simply as making that pass or getting into ball screens up top, trying to turn the corner, pushing here, right? We're playing off of this, we're going the other side. And as our one comes off the ball screen, again, we're looking at, do we have a kick out? Do I have a chance to drive? Do I have big help over here? So I'm looking for my 4. And then in this situation, we'd probably keep this player out. So if we need an outlet and we don't like what we have, boom, we're kicking it back out. We can get into our ball swing. We're posting, this player's coming back down. We're filling, and then we're coming over here. Again, you're playing off the ball. You're keeping some general structure of 3 out, 2 in, but you're not getting married to it. And you're trying to utilize your bigs who are more comfortable around the basket and still trying to suit their strengths as far as post-ups, ball screens, screening for one another, right? And that's one thing we didn't touch on. That's can't believe I forgot that. But if we can hear, that's one thing that we want. We want a lot of cross screens between these two. We want to get into angled screens right there. Anything where these two can start to exchange, right? Make the defense have to guess. Are they switching? Is there a mismatch between these two players? Because one really has the ability to go inside, outside. The other one does not. Most players are not used to guarding a post player anymore, so it can be highly effective if you have somebody that is comfortable with their back to the basket and scoring around at the rim. All right, so I hope you find this beneficial. If you have any questions, let me know. But it's something that is not played very often, but we have found some success with it in the past at the high school and junior high level. Thanks for watching.